Hey everyone, welcome to Freedom Live, broadcasting from Voluntary Virtues Network. I'm your host, Mike Dano, and tonight we're joined by a special guest, Chandler St. Pierre. How are you tonight, Chandler?
Word.
Awesome. Glad to have you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always good to talk with new people and speak with new show audiences and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome too, man. I got an opportunity to meet Chandler last year. We both actually met up with Ben Stone, and um, I wish I was actually running the show last year because I wanted to actually interview him. I thought he's kind of interesting and a pretty cool guy. Tonight we'll be discussing our experience at this past Fest and what we came to expect from it. Um, we'll talk a little bit about our rookie year going to Fest and how it relates to this previous year and our experiences. And we'll try to squeeze in a little buzz on the Chris Cantwell at Fest incident.
I
Um,
wasn't even aware of any of that stuff, man. Like I
just
saw the
zoned it out.
flyers that people put up, and somebody said he might be coming, and I was like, I thought that guy got banned.
Yeah, he did. It was um, yeah, they put a lot of banners up, and they had a little minor issue with security, and they had to peek through someone's van because they got whiff that someone might have tried to smuggle Chris Cantwell in with their car, like he's some kind of like refugee.
Well, my only I don't follow his stuff a lot. Um, my only thing is if he's this big libertarian celebrity guy that everyone says, he should respect the fact that he was banned from private property. I mean, he's entitled to his views. I know he talked about shooting cops and all that. I have quite a different opinion on that, but whatever. But if they said we don't want you here, that's the Pork Fest and Rogers Campground, right? So I don't see what the big deal is, and I think he would just accept it and be like, well, those cats can't handle me, so I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I share the same view with the property rights. It is a private event, and they can't exclude anyone um, that they want, and they do have freedom of association. And I don't agree so much about the article that he wrote and his wording. Um, but on the other end, I think they're starting to the Free State Project. I think they're starting to um, web out to not inviting people to speak if they give Chris Cantwell a platform. And Mike Shanklin, who I spent majority of the time with at Fest, actually kind of explained that to me. He wasn't invited to speak this year because um, he had gotten pretty upset email from someone, I'm not going to give their name, from the Free State Project because they found out that he was giving Chris Cantwell a platform to speak on statism and slavery. So, well, there's that. I think you and I pretty much share the same view as far as Chris Cantwell goes. I'm glad we kind of got that one out of the way.
Yeah. Well, I've always had the view, in my minarchist days, I was kind of more like, shoot them up, if they come for me, bring it on. And I mean, definitely, if things got bad, I would definitely defend myself. But I've gotten to the point where now I think you need to prepare for that eventuality so it doesn't end up in a shootout if you get in, if you run afoul of the law enforcement or federal government agencies. But I really think the key to winning this battle that we all seem to be fighting is it's not just education, but it's shaping the future generations. We can do what we can do in our lifetimes. We can do this show and others, and we can go to Pork Fest and we can talk to people on the street, and that's good. And I think people should do more of that. But we're not going to. I doubt we're going to see the type of libertarian paradise that we envision in our lifetimes. My only hope is my daughter might be able to see it in hers, and that's why I try to teach her those values so that she can continue on when I'm either droned or locked up in Guantanamo or die of old age, whatever it may be.
Yeah, definitely. I think freedom, I think, starts at the home, and
Hmm.
it has to be instilled in. the children that we're going to be raising, the next generation. And I definitely agree with you. We're not going to see 100% freedom in this world in our lifetime. It'll probably take 1,000 years, and it would be unbelievable if we actually came to see that 7 billion people deciding that they don't need government anymore in my lifetime. It would be incredible to experience, but I think that'll be a legacy for my great, great, great times 10 grandchildren.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see that anyway. I think what you'll see is right now you have pockets of individuals that don't believe in rulers, and I think that will grow exponentially, but you'll never see a world free from rulers. There will always be people who feel the need to be ruled by others, whether it be from lack of confidence or I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand the need for rulers and all these foolish laws and enforcement. I just got a ticket Saturday night for failure to come to a complete stop at a stop sign. $131. I was like, are you kidding me? I talked to the cop. I was like, look, man, I'm appealing to your humanity. Cut me some slack. He would have none of it. So, I don't understand that need, but I recognize that it will always be there with certain people. I just don't want to be compelled into it. So I think you'll see these pockets of individuals that don't feel that need grow, but I don't think you'll see it total worldwide. And
Yeah.
whatever, if certain people want to have rulers, that's your gig, man. If you want that stuff, cool, just don't put it upon me.
Absolutely, and as long as it's voluntary, I don't care if I have communist and socialist neighbors, as long as they allow me to live the way I want to live on my property.
Exactly.
Then we're good, man. Good stuff, man. So yeah, I definitely want to jump into a little intro on you, so the viewers can get a little taste of who you are and how you got to your uh, current political philosophy. So I'll just ask, how did you get to your political philosophy?
Well, like most people, I believe it started with Ron Paul and Michael Badnarik. I was a conservative Republican for years. Yes, I know. I've begged for forgiveness, and I'm trying to atone.
I'm still doing that today.
Yeah. And then I came across Ron Paul and Michael Badnarik, who are probably my two favorite statists. And, I went and I got into some of the radio talk show hosts on RBN and GCN. I started listening to Alex Jones. And then I met this really cool person online who I started chatting with, and she started dropping these hints of anarchism. And she was really big into Anonymous and all these things. And my friend CJ, who I do a podcast with, had heard this podcast called The Freedom Fiends. And I was like, oh yeah, great, another podcast, whatever. This was when I was kind of sort of switching from my minarchist ways. The thing that really did it for me was I read Hologram of Liberty by Boston Tea Party, or Kenneth Royce. And even though he's not an anarchist, he's more of a really hardcore minarchist. After I read that book, I was done. I was like, there is no need for government and for rulers. And from there on, I discovered Freedom Fiends, Bad Quaker, Stefan Molyneux, LRN. I started reading a lot of Mises and Rothbard, stuff like that, and it just kind of spiraled there. I think it's always been within me, because like I said, I was more on the conservative side, which is always supposed to be the small government stuff, and it's not. But I've always had that streak of rebelliousness and not just questioning authority, but I love the way Bill Bubert puts it, questioning obedience. Like, why should I be obedient, subservient to your dictates? So it's kind of always been like that for me, and it's just gone on and on. The first podcast I did was with my friend CJ and my friend Diana, and it was called Brushfires in the Mind, and that was very minarchist. And if you listen to the 2.5 years that we did that, you can almost hear the transition. And then we got done with that show, took a little break, and we started a new website called flightofthebastards.com, and we started a new podcast, the FU Express. But we kind of moved away from talking about the tyranny today and the anti-government stuff and anarchism, whatever. We still discuss that sort of thing, But now, you know, a typical podcast, we may talk for 20 minutes on books, you know, like the newest, coolest Star Wars book I've read, or, you know, we might talk about music and some of the coolest shows we've been to recently. And, you know, we always throw in that thread of anarchism and why liberty and freedom is a necessity, but we don't focus solely on that. Because what I've found is whenever you focus on that, all the tyranny that's going on, I mean, if you look at my Facebook page 2 years ago, a year ago, you'd see post after post, look what they're doing to us now. And after a while, you burn yourself out with that. So now, like, I focus more on philosophy. I focus more on art, on music. I've been reading a lot of abstract poetry and a lot of the classic novelists and philosophers and stuff like that. So it kind of distracts me. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I realize the real danger we are in as a society in general, but I'm not going to burn myself out with it, you know? So that's me.
Sorry about that. I had my mic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have no sound.
So yeah, no, I definitely agree, and it's not worth really spending your time being like a malcontent and because you know really who would want to join the cause of liberty if we're always focused on the negative. I mean, I try to just live my life as happy and as fulfilling as possible,
Exactly.
while also speaking out against injustice. So, you know, the saying goes that the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist is about 6 months, and it took me about 5 years to finally run out of excuses and decide that government is not real and it's just made out of human beings that imagine they have the right to rule. And unfortunately, it took a disappointing display of screw jobs with the Ron Paul campaign in 2012.
Yeah.
And a Larkin Rose video, and that's really all it took for me, and it just opened up a whole another door for me. And
What Larkin Rose video was it?
it was the first Free Your Mind conference. I think it was from 2009, 2010.
Wow, cool. I haven't checked that out yet. He was one of the last ones I got into. I think I saw Tiny Dot and Jones Plantation, and I started watching his YouTube channel, and I really liked it. But that was after I was already converted. And then last year I met him and talked to him for a few minutes. I bought a couple of his books and stuff. The Most Dangerous Superstition I really liked. I mean, you know, by then it was preaching to the choir, but I figured this is a good book to give people who are kind of on the fence. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I just read his book on The Most Dangerous Superstition, and it was a really good book, but it was kind of preaching to the choir. I'm kind of already there.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing as much of Larkin Rose in the near future. He just announced on Facebook he's semi-retiring from making appearances and making videos and going to Pork Fest and whatnot. He wants to kind of lock himself away and concentrate on projects.
Yeah, I noticed he was a little more quiet and withdrawn this year. Sitting out hanging by the big rock, doing his own thing, which is cool.
Yeah, I think Larkin's a little. I think he feels a little antisocial at times. I think he feels a little uncomfortable around a bunch of people, because I know my wife met him at this year's Pork Fest, and she actually witnessed him turning down pictures with people. And I think he just wanted to really just be alone and with his thoughts, which is fine.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. I mean, it's one thing to sit in front of a microphone and a webcam or whatever and talk, but I got to be on the abortion panel at PorkFest this year. I have no idea why. I think it's just because Michael Dean was trying to be kind and throw a little something in there that most people aren't used to. And it's, being around that many people hanging on what you're about to say, you know, actually really interested in your opinion, it can be a little overwhelming at times. That's why I like to sit right here and just do it this way.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, I got a few questions. I want to make it quick so we can jump into the topic a little bit before the end of the show. I really wish the show was longer. I'm having so much fun here.
I'll have to come back sometime.
Oh, dude, I'm definitely gonna have you back. Um, so I guess the more important of the two questions I want to ask you is, were your parents political? Were they non-political or apolitical?
Um, my mom is kind of an old hippie, and she is not political. She tends to agree with me a great deal. My dad was a hardcore liberal, and he was a one-issue liberal. You know, he's gay, so Republicans hate gay people and all that crap.
Hmm.
But interestingly enough, my dad started. He would hear me listening to Ron Paul speeches sometimes, and he's like, "This, I checked this guy out. He's all right." And you know, now the more and more I talk about the not needing a government and not needing rulers, it's kind of played in with him, and he's starting to see it more and more. So again, like I said, I think this this trait for this desire for liberty, be it to be a libertarian, small L or large L, I think is ingrained. We're born with it, and we just need to be exposed to certain influences and environments to recognize it. And I guess my parents would both be of that ilk. You know, most of my family were hardcore Democrats. I was the black sheep way back when I was a conservative Republican. They just couldn't understand it. So yeah, I mean, you know, but I think a lot of them at heart are libertarians, and they just haven't heard it articulated in a way that speaks to them.
Yeah, definitely on social issues. I think Democrats, liberals, I think they are more supportive of the anarchist ideals because I think anarchism not just focuses on the economic portions of freedom, which coincides with social freedom. You can't have one without the other. But I think with Democrats, um, in theory, they're for social freedom. So I think they're kind of more on board than Republicans would be with the ideas of anarchism and whatnot. And
See, I used to think that, but it occurred to me that the Democrats are just as intolerant because they want you to accept their social acceptance and diversity, and they force it upon you. You know, like if I don't want to like, and I'm not saying this, I'm just saying as a hypothetical, if I don't want to like a certain race or a certain religion or a certain sexuality, they are telling me I have to do that when I don't have to. You know, they think everybody should be accepting, so they're really no different than the Republicans in that respect.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
just like
absolutely.
the Republicans say they talk about free markets a lot, but they want you to follow their ideals of the free market, which are not free at all. So they're all liars and thieves in my book.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, my mother's side is pretty much all Democrat, and my father's side's all Republican. And uh, I grew up accepting more of the conservative Republican ideals, and I was like a neocon who
Oh yes, me
voted for
too.
George Bush, unfortunately. And
Me too.
yep, yep. So I mean, who knows if I had if I had swayed Democrat in my younger years, who knows? I might have just been an anarcho-communist instead of a voluntarist. I mean, you never know what path I would have taken.
Yeah.
All right, well, hey, good stuff, man, good stuff. So let's talk about Porkfest. We got about 10 minutes left.
Porkfest
What
is
were
the
your
bomb. I
Porkfest
love
is the bomb.
I loved it.
I love
In
Porkfest.
in a non-literal sense, people. I don't want any of the government people that may be listening to think it was real. No, it was great. I I went with the intention of taking in every single workshop and speaker, and it was my first vacation in years where I actually had a week off, so I missed a lot of them. I spent a lot of time drinking beer and socializing and walking around, just kind of checking out the stuff. But yeah, you know, it was great. I mean, very diverse crowd, lots of different people, lots to do, lots to learn, or just hang out and have down to earth messages with really cool people.
How was your experience last year? Was last year, assuming was your first year? I'm not sure, but how was your
Yes.
experience last year? It was. So how was your first year? Uh, how do you compare it to this year?
My first year, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I just kind of went with it. And we didn't have as much time. My first year, we got there on a Thursday afternoon. This year, I got there on a Tuesday night. Um, so I ran around trying to catch all the speeches last year, which I didn't. I actually think I caught more last year, and kind of meeting a lot of people and that sort of thing. This year, mainly, a big part of my focus was because I co-host on the Freedom Fiends occasionally, and I had never met Michael Dean or any of the other co-hosts. You know, they're your internet friends that you don't meet. The only person I had met was Ben Stone, and that was last year. So a big part of it was meeting these folks and hanging out with them and getting to know them. And, you know, taking my kid around and exposing her to stuff, which is really cool because last year she wasn't all that much into it. And this year she said to me, she was like, "Dad, are we going to Pork Fest?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, we're going. If you want to go, I'll take you. No sweat." So it was a little more relaxed this year, just because I knew what to expect, and I knew, you know, what where everything was, you know, all the tents and the pavilions and the Agora Valley and that sort of thing. And I remember, like, I knew you from last year, and there was a couple other people that I got to meet last year that were there this year, the people that graciously let me camp on their site. So yeah, it was just a little more laid back this year.
Yeah, I think with everyone I've spoken to this year who were first time goers, and it was the same for me. It literally is like your first year in high school. You don't know anybody. You're overwhelmed. You're excited. You're kind of learning the ropes a little bit on what's what and who's who. Um, I did the same thing last year. I tried to go to all the speeches and lectures, and I try. One of my major goals was to meet Larkin Rose and to meet some of the celebritarians, they want to call them. And well, this year I think I had a whole lot more fun. Just vending with Shanklin and promoting White Cloud, and I met so many people. And I think my favorite were the people that told me it's their first time out, and I gave them I had the opportunity to welcome them and, you know, really make them feel good so they can come back next year and really help it grow.
Yeah. That yeah, I have some of my friends that I wouldn't consider anarchists or totally, you know, politically aware or whatever. They're in the same mindset as me, and I've been encouraging all of them. I'm like, you guys have got to come to Pork Fest. You know, it's so much fun. They're like, well, I don't really get into the whole, you know, listening to speakers and going to workshops. I'm like, that's okay. It's a lot of people have said it's a big party, and it is, but it's just it's libertarian paradise for a week for the most part. It's just a place to hang out, to exchange ideas, to, you know, I almost the majority of my purchases, I bought this really cool necklace from Nikki Darling, and I used silver to get it. I bought a rocket stove from a guy that was vending it. Used silver to get that. I don't have any Bitcoin. I'm behind the times, which is really weird because I am a computer guy, but I never really got on the whole Bitcoin thing. I'll work on that. But, you know, it was just kind of cool to do that sort of thing, you know, not use FRNs and use real money and not be thought of as weird. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually one of the most amazing things that I actually got the opportunity to witness was the trading in the silver, the bartering. Like, people bartered like crazy.
Yeah.
Everything was all voluntary interactions, and that's literally anarchy in plain sight. And uh, yeah, it really does work, and people will make the excuse, well, it'll work in really small pockets, but it couldn't
Yeah.
work nationally, which is bullshit, because
Well,
everybody already does that.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, think about I'm sure there are people all over the country listening right now. So it's not a general area thing. You know, I can go to my friend and, I get my deer and he's a butcher and, I don't have the $80 or whatever it is to skin and cut it up. So I bring over, a fifth of whiskey or whatever, and we sit there and drink that, or I give him a piece of silver, or, I fix his computer or whatever. Think about how many times in average everyday life where you do that. Yeah, you can't go to Walmart and say, I need to buy this item and can I trade my time for it? Okay, I get that. But in general, you can do that with folks. And I think in a truly anarchic society, a decentralized society, that's going to be much more commonplace and accepted, to the point where I think you'll even see bigger vendors do that. I mean, everyone's starting to get on the Bitcoin thing now. There are actually companies that are accepting Bitcoin for payment. So it's not that far of a stretch.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, we got 3 minutes left, and I want to ask you, I always ask, if you were on your deathbed and you had all these cameras in your face from major news networks, and you had just 1 or 2 minutes to say anything to the whole world, what would you say?
Wow. I've never really thought of that before. I would tell people that you need to live, you should, not you need. I choose to live free, and I hope you do too. You can follow the non-aggression principle, the golden rule, whatever you call it. Don't harm anyone. Everything should be voluntary, and you should live free. Violence is not the way to a prosperous society, and government is based solely on violence. So, and you can take that to any area of your life. Violence only begets more violence. When you have interactions and transactions that are voluntary and peaceful, everybody comes out satisfied and happy. So take that lesson from the folks that do that and live your life as much as you can in that way. And I'm not a pacifist, by the way. This is sitting right on my nightstand, right on my desk here, and there's another one there and many in there. So I'm definitely not a pacifist. I'm a hippie with lots of guns. And I believe in self-defense. But I also believe that initiating violence is not the answer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's really good stuff. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time joining me tonight. And if you want, I'd love to have you back in a couple of months. What do you think?
I think that would be awesome. I'd greatly enjoy it. And I thank you for inviting me on. I'm very honored.
That's awesome, man. I wish I had more time in the show. But I want to tell the viewers, if you haven't gone to Statism is Slavery, please subscribe, check it out. It's the largest anarchist Facebook site with 200,000 members, and it's growing every day. Also, please tune in every Monday night from 8 to 8:30 Eastern Time for Freedom Live. And have a good night. Bye-bye.